Greetings, greetings, greetings.
Hello.
My name is Kianis Taylor. I am with Great School Voices, and I want to welcome Byron Hogan, who is with the Oakland Symphony M.U.S.E program. Hi, Byron.
Hello.
How are you today?
I'm doing pretty good. Great. Yes.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. Well, I am so excited to have you on our program this morning and to talk to you about the wonderful, amazing work you're doing with Oakland Youth as a musician and as an instructor. So, if you're ready for it, why don't we just jump right on in?
Absolutely. Yeah, let's go.
Okay. So, first, can you tell us a little bit about who you are, what your background is, and how you are raising the bar for kids?
Sure. Well, I'm Byron Hogan. I came here from Florida originally. I grew up playing cello. I started in the public school system at the age of 10, so fifth grade, and I just stuck with it in public school all the way until I graduated. Ended up going to school at the college down the street from me. Stayed there for about 5 years. Finished a performance and half of an education degree, and didn't use it for a long time. Ended up doing grad school as a performer, then another grad school as a performer, and then another grad school as a performer. Traveled around the East Coast, went on tours with like a Frank Zappa band, and played with a bunch of different symphonies and a string quartet for a while. Ended up down in Texas, and then back in New Jersey. New York, and then I ended up over here. Got married and started my life in the Oakland Bay Area. So that's kind of where I'm from, and I'm really just enjoying the teaching experience. 'Cause I've been teaching my entire life in private settings, but Oakland Muse was the first real opportunity I had to really bring it to a classroom setting and work with students in larger groups for long periods of time. So I'm really just enjoying getting into it in that aspect as well.
Very, very cool. What would you say are some of the differences that you've seen working with kids in music versus working with adults as musicians?
Well, I think I have to kind of temper my expectations a lot because I mean, when you're in a professional setting for so long, you're used to things just happening very quickly and everything just goes like clockwork because you just understand that we're all professionals. But you always have to kind of look at the kids and say, what do they need right now? What are they willing to try right now? And how far are they willing to go with their enjoyment of the music? Because have to not go in not expecting them to become professionals, and just to learn, just to treat it as like a math class or a science class. You're not going to be a mathematician, but you do want to try to do well in math so you can understand why it works and how it relates to your life. So um, I think a lot of it is just getting used to figuring out what I can push and what I can't, and also making sure that they're enjoying themselves and making sure that they're entertained with what they're doing as well, because it is here to have fun. So figuring out how to find the most fun aspects of everything that I'm doing in the class.
Excellent, excellent. Can you tell us? You've been all over. You've been to the East Coast, the South. It sounds like here on the West Coast. Um, can you tell us what are some of the differences um, between the various cities? How are schools different in the various cities where you lived and worked? And what's
Hmm.
special about Oakland?
Well, that always takes me back to something that a very old teacher that I had said when she asked us as a class. She's like, "Do you think that you're different than your parents were when you were here?" And we're like, "Oh yeah, we're definitely different." She's like, "No, you weren't," because she had been around long enough to teach our parents and her and their parents. She was so experienced. She said, "You're the same as all the kids that I've ever seen before. You're not any worse or better. You're not any smarter or dumber. You're just the same kids." And so I always take that as I go from place to place. The kids are the same everywhere I go, but the administrations and the way that they treat people and the way that they attack situations is very different. I grew up in Florida, and there was a very different atmosphere about where they placed kids and how they treated kids that didn't quite fit into the mold of what they wanted. Um,
Mm.
and I think that's kind of just the way that they were at the time, especially. I'm sure they've changed a lot by now. Um, and I noticed that in Oakland, they do a really good job of making sure that kids are included, regardless of what's going on, and they try to meet them where they are. So they I don't see a lot of kids being ostracized from the group. When I have a class of students, everybody's in the class. Neurodivergent kids are in the class. Kids with behavioral issues are in the class. Everybody's in the class and they're learning, and they're doing the best they can. Uh, and just the teachers are always there to be there for the students where they need to be, which I find really refreshing. And I don't think you see that everywhere.
Very nice. That is very refreshing to hear about a city like Oakland,
Mm.
especially. Thank you. So, with all of that in mind, what can schools do to raise the bar?
Um, I think they're doing such a great job now. But one of the things that I've kind of noticed is um, sometimes resources for especially instrumental kids like string players, the instruments can be really expensive, and I understand that that's a problem because it's a problem for adults as well because we're also kind of like, how are we going to afford these instruments? But sometimes instrument repairs go unnoticed or we don't have really a process for getting instruments repaired. So students will be playing on instruments that are where the bridge is really out of place or it doesn't work, or they can't really make a good sound, or the left hand has to work extra hard because the strings aren't at the right height. And we don't really have anywhere to take the instrument or get it fixed up, or um, just have a pool of instruments to choose from to make sure that they have something that works for them. So that's really one of the only really big things I've seen. And I think sometimes just a little bit more support for the programs for strings and things like that, because uh, sometimes I feel like the we kind of get swept under the rug a little bit, even though they are in schools, and I think it's really amazing. I feel like sometimes it's the first thing to get cut. And I think this is kind of nationwide as well, that string programs and music programs like that tends to get cut because they don't see the value in it.
Mm,
So maybe just seeing the value in it and understanding that it's not just classical music, it's not just symphony performances, it's not just Beethoven, Mozart, it's everything. Like the kids can play anything on these instruments. So just understanding how music works and how to understand their hand-eye coordination and all those things, understanding that from a administrative position, I think is very useful. Would be very useful for them.
So, finding additional resources and making better connections between what kids are learning in a music environment, a musical environment, and what they're learning in other parts of their education.
Yes, yes, I think so. Yeah.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, it sounds like the program Oakland Symphony Muse is just a really incredible resource for students in Oakland. Can you tell us more about what kinds of opportunities the Oakland Symphony provides for students?
Oh yes, absolutely. So the Muse program, what they do is they go into the schools and they have um, Muse art teaching artists who are people that are around the area that play in the symphony, that sub with the symphony, and are also freelancers and play all kinds of amazing things. They do all kinds of recordings. Just really top level professionals will go around to the different schools, go to the elementary schools, the middle schools, and the high schools, and help teach or go into the classes and help take out smaller groups or work with just the violins or just the cellos to really give them a hands-on experience from somebody that really knows what's going on. Then the teachers are really great too, but they can't do everything at once, right? So
Of
it's
course.
great to have somebody to come in and say, "Oh, we'll just take care of these kids for a while," and so they do a really good job of having that happen. So the kids are getting really great instruction, and then the kids that want to learn more and that want to stay extra or do extra stuff, they have the Stringendo program, which is what I do at Cleveland Elementary, and we come in once a week after school for an hour, and they just have a string class for an hour, just strings, just the kids that really want to be there, that really want to learn. And it gives us time to work with them individually, teach them stuff that they might not get in class, go over the things they do in class so they get a better understanding of it. And also, even with my classes, I have them request songs, and I'll make arrangements of the song so they can see it on sheet music and take it home and practice a song that they hear on the radio and kind of understand that there's other aspects of what they can do. There's also a another program for the older kids where they have a symphony that they can all meet together. Um, and on top of that, Oakland Symphony provides tickets to their concerts. So students are allowed to go to Oakland Symphony concerts for free through the Muse program, which is also really amazing. So they get to see these great, amazing performances that, I don't, I think. maybe once a year we got allowed to go to a performance during the year for specifically designed for kids, but they can go to any concert, almost any concert during the year, and just show up,
Wow.
and it's
Wow,
pretty
that's
amazing.
amazing.
Yeah.
That is incredible. Well, is there anything that you would share with students, with parents, or even with administrators to encourage them to become more involved with music or to encourage more interest in musical opportunities?
Hmm. Well, I think one of the things I always think about with parents is really putting strings in their mind, or I should say, orchestral music or instrumental music. So I think a lot of times we tend to go to radio hits top 40 when we jump in the car or something. But I mean, sometimes put on the symphony, put on a jazz record just so they can hear that and have that going through their mind as they're going through life. And I think that is a very small and subtle way to really introduce these concepts, because when I think about why I got into music, my parents were very diverse in the music that they listened to. So I would hear heavy rock, I would hear R&B, a lot of R&B and soul, but then I would also hear a lot of very abstract jazz and things like that. So when I got into school and they were putting me on in these all of these different programs, I did like golf lessons, I did tennis lessons, I did baseball, basketball, I did all these things. Nothing really stuck. But in fifth grade, when I went to the exhibition and they had all the sixth grade cellists and the violinists come on stage and play, I was like, oh, I've heard these sounds before. I've heard this kind of music before, and I was really interested in, and that's what made me really jump towards it. So, um, really, just diversifying the kind of music that they listen to. So when they see a string instrument, it's not like, oh, that's not something that I could do or it's something interesting to me. It's like, oh, I've heard that before. That would be really interesting to see how that works. And so just developing that curiosity, I think, is kind of the most important thing.
I really love that answer. It also makes me think about my own kid. As soon as I knew that in the womb that she could hear, that she was developing hearing and could hear the world outside, I started playing classical music every time I was in the car. And so now, as a big kid, a soon to be sixth grader, she loves classical music, is interested in strings. We got a piano for her in the house at age 4 and started lessons at age 6. And so now she can play 3 string instruments, the piano, the violin, and is now really interested in the guitar. So I
Ah,
really appreciate
beautiful.
what you said, just in terms of giving kids the exposure to allow them to be interested.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, string instruments are, I think I don't know, they spoke to me, but everybody's different. I'm reminded of just in the last few years working with different students, and everybody takes to the instruments differently, and everybody has a different mindset. So I'd have kids that were okay string players but never really got into it, and then they leave, go somewhere else, go to middle school, and they join the band and do percussion, and they're amazing percussionists. It's like to
Mhm.
have that experience of playing a string instrument and going, okay, I kind of get it, but it's not really something that makes sense to me. But then jumping into something else and going, oh, this is me. This is my place.
Right. I really think of it as a form of just expression. And when you get the pushback of, oh, do I have to practice the piano, and those kinds of questions, it's the explanation, and that's what often works in our home, is that this is a foundation for you, and this is a way that we are trying to provide you the ability to process your emotions and express yourself in a creative way. And so when there's kind of a logic behind the hours and the cramped fingers, then it seems to go down a little smoother.
Absolutely, yeah, yeah. Like it always, that makes me think of I'm in Florida, and I grew up in Florida. It's a very big sports area, so people do football a lot there, which is kind of like Texas. Um, and the reason people always say, "Oh, you should do football" or something like that, it's like because it teaches you discipline, it teaches you to work hard towards a goal, it teaches you all these things. Music does the exact same thing, and I really believe that music and sports are very closely intertwined. They're very similar. They're both physical activities. They're both mental activities, and I both think they both teach you a great amount of discipline. So I put them on the same level. I think they should be pushed just as equally.
Beautiful. Well, Byron, thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure talking with you and hearing about the amazing things that you're doing with the Oakland Symphony and with Oakland schools and youth. So, unless there's anything else you'd like to share,
Oh no, I'm fine. We'll continue our days. But it was a pleasure talking to you. Thank you for having me.
thank you so much. And you have a great one.
All right, you too.
Thank you. Peace.